Conan, what is best in life? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women. That is good. That is good.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. And the other day, I was looking for someone to partner with me to talk about a few pop culture topics. And I went to my good friend, Mark Pellegrini, who's obviously the creative partner of Tim Lim. They've done Kamen America, Black Ops. They do all the comic books together. And I said, Mark, you want to talk about this? And he came back and he said, I'm going to be honest, Wes. I don't really watch much modern entertainment anymore. I think it's not all that good. I said, you know what? I'm noticing the same thing. Maybe that's the topic we're supposed to talk about. So obviously here with me today is my good friend, Mark Pellegrini, to talk about this. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me back, Wes.
You know, I think a lot of people have kind of noticed the weird watered down version of the MCU, the version of Star Wars we've got where it's gone out of its way to subvert expectations, or you could even say give lifelong Star Wars fans a middle finger. I have two little children. I have to watch a lot of kids shows, and I see a lot of pandering and just moralistic bullcrap in kids' entertainment. Just my son is 5. He sees right through it. He turns it off. I think a lot of you don't have to be 40 years old. I think you can be 5 and spot all of this and realize there's some entertainment options out there that aren't all that entertaining anymore. At least that's not the reason they're there. And I kind of want to talk about this. I do want to say this before we get too deep into this. If you're just joining for the first time or you've been coming around but you haven't subscribed, today is the day to subscribe to Thinking Critical YouTube. Hit the bell for notifications. Give us a thumbs up if you want more Mark Pellegrini talking pulp culture on the channel. Give us a thumbs down if you want me to kick him to the curb. Either way, we definitely want to hear your feedback. It's an interesting topic. Like we just think about movies, like Western movies. It's like the MCU was so cool there for a while, but didn't it feel like everything just got watered down?
It did. So they figured out what worked and they turned it into a template and they built all their movies off of that template. So they ended up very cookie cutter and assembly line, and it lost the spontaneity. It watered down the things that made them entertaining. When every character is acting like Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark, then Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark doesn't feel special or funny anymore when everyone's doing a shtick. I mean, when I started to notice it, like really notice it and just not have a good time with those movies anymore, it was Doctor Strange. And I was watching Doctor Strange like, this is just the exact same narrative as Iron Man. It follows it beat for beat. The humor is all the same. The characters are all the same. There's this excess of comedy relief where you already have the Doctor Strange character, Benedict Cumberbatch, and he's playing the character like Tony Stark, so he's very snarky, he's very quippy, he's in itself a funny character. But then they give him his like magic cloak sidekick, who's also a comedy relief character. So the comedy character has their own comedy relief character and is just suffocating. But it follows the same narrative of Iron Man. And even when they aren't following necessarily a narrative template, they all have that Joss Whedon-esque quippy, cutesy, comedy relief, nonstop sense of humor. I watch like Guardians of the Galaxy, and it has the same type of humor as the Avengers film. You watch what was that other terrible one?
Ant-Man?
Thor Ragnarok. Oh, Ant-Man actually.
Yeah.
Ant-Man has the same thing though, where the main character Scott Lang, I can't remember the actor's name, but Paul Rudd's character, he's also very quippy and he's very funny. There's no character who isn't a quippy comedy guy. Even Captain America is probably the closest one to like a serious character, but even he has lots of quippy stuff the way Joss Whedon writes. But Thor Ragnarok was the one where I'm like, just stop, guys. This is the movie where Asgard gets destroyed. It's the one where it's supposed to be dark and ominous, but it feels like a Guardians of the Galaxy
shark on
movie.
that one with the toddler humor.
I just got bored with the films. But that's the thing, though, and the same thing with Marvel Comics. Everybody's very snarky and quippy, and you can say if you don't like the moralizations in the Marvel Comics, you don't like Squirrel Girl, you don't like the art and like Hellcat or whatever. But that's kind of the topic for today is it's not bad to live in the past. It's not even necessarily living in the past. If you just go back and find the things from the past that you enjoy, that appeal to you, that you've never experienced before, things that are new to you. That's not wallowing in nostalgia. That's discovering good media that entertains you rather than living constantly in the present and hating it. You know, I don't like the current Marvel comics, but there's literally 75 years of Marvel comics, and I've probably scratched maybe 5% of them in my lifetime. So I'm going back and picking up those Marvel Epic collections that have complete runs from the Silver Age and the Bronze Age, and I'm finding these great runs of X-Men, of New Mutants and X-Factor, stuff that I missed completely, you know, as a kid, and I'm enjoying them. I'm getting to experience the characters I like and enjoying the stories written with them rather than just, you know, hate humping the current media that's just really bad and just sitting here and loathing it. And same thing with like Star Wars, you know, I don't like the new trilogy. I just didn't enjoy it like a lot of people, but instead of
you know what's weird with the new Star Wars, it felt like Kathleen Kennedy and the new people in Lucasfilm, they thought as long as a movie kind of looked and felt like it was in a Star Wars setting, that's what brought people in. They didn't think it was the characters and the story. So it was really a big turnoff when you start seeing all the characters that you liked. Oh, I want to see Luke. What happened with Luke? Oh, he's not the same character anymore. What happened with Han? You know, he's infatuated with the new character and thinks she should be flying the Millennium Falcon. He's no longer, the
every
kind of character anymore.
Yeah, every character you love from the original trilogy wound up to be a depressed failure. Even Princess Leia, like what did she accomplish, between episodes 6 and 7? Nothing. Everyone's pretty much, if they're not where you left them, they've moved backward. But that's the thing, is that if you don't like the sequel trilogy, if you don't like where that narrative continuation took those characters, guess what? There were sequels done in the 90s, the Thrawn trilogy, the Dark Empire trilogy, all those great Del Rey books, all those Dark Horse comics and Marvel comics. There's alternative sequels that you can go back and discover. They're not movies, but that doesn't mean they're bad. I've read the Thrawn trilogy. I've read both versions, the books and Mike Barron's comic book adaptation, and they're both good. So if you don't want to read the book, read the comic. That's actually available in a Marvel Epic collection right now. And that's the thing, is that so you don't like what they're making right now, but there's 30-something years of Star Wars media you can go back and discover, and all of it is still in print right now. So just find the part of Star Wars you do enjoy and focus on that. Don't sit there just like seething over these terrible movies that you don't like. That's not healthy.
Yeah, I haven't gone and seen a Star Wars movie since the last Jedi, right?
Yeah, me neither. Actually, I didn't bother with Rise of Skywalker.
I didn't bother with Solo either. I could care less. I did watch a little bit of The Mandalorian. I know you like that one a little bit more than I do, but I just feel like the bar got lowered on The Mandalorian. It's entertaining. It's certainly better than what we were getting, but it's I like Netflix. It's a really slow-paced movie.
The Mandalorian, I did enjoy. I'm not going to say I didn't like it, but it was almost like the expectations were so low after those bad movies that even something like The Mandalorian, just by virtue of not being terrible, it's enjoyable. I guess it's just when you put it side by side with something like The Last Jedi, something as, I guess, bland as The Mandalorian or inoffensive as The Mandalorian, it seems better than it really is. It's like having, the wingman in the bar. You get your ugliest friend to sit next to you at the bar, and it helps you pick up chicks, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. It's weird. It kind of funnels even down to TV. TV's got its own set of weird issues. Like, I don't know exactly when it happened, but all of a sudden every father in television is Homer Simpson or stupid.
I know.
You remember when Married with Children came out and Al Bundy was hilarious because you'd never seen anything like that in your life? He would be like a strong male role model today because he was somewhat like competent and capable.
I mean, he hated his family, but he never stopped providing for them. He hated his job, but he went to his job every day, that shoe salesman job, and he was miserable, but he did it so he could keep a roof over his family's head, the family he despises. There is an honor to Al Bundy that's you don't see that. And you're right, everybody is Homer Simpson because the Homer Simpson template worked. And Homer Simpson was an evolution of, Fred Flintstone, who was a ripoff of Jackie Gleason from The Honeymooners. So the dumb dad thing, it's been around since the dawn of television. But once Homer Simpson took off, then you got your Peter Griffins. You got all these dumb dad characters, like even in stuff like The Incredibles. And the first Incredibles movie, Mr. Incredible wasn't that bad in that. But in the second one, where he's like, how do I change a diaper? No man has ever had to do this in the history of human civilization. How do I help my son with homework? I don't understand these things. How do I cook dinner? How do you turn the oven on? I'm a moron. Just like, it's everywhere. Like one father character, one intelligent, respectable, responsible father character in something, anything, but it's just.
Yeah, you like watch Modern Family. I guess that's like the number one comedy, or I believe it's still in the top top comedies, right up there with Big Bang Theory. You look like Phil Dunphy. He's dumber than his like 8-year-old son.
I know, and it's one of those things where it was funny when Homer Simpson did it, but now that everybody's Homer Simpson, it's lost its appeal. It's this very typical Hollywood kind of thing, whereas we're just like we talked about with the MCU. They found something that worked once, and so everything became that. And so they found The Simpsons. The Simpsons worked, so now everything is The Simpsons.
Well, I think there's just an anti-male sentiment. There's like an anti-family sentiment, within Hollywood, and I think they're glad to propagate that image of fathers. Don't respect your dad. He's a fucking moron. Why would you listen to him? He can't even tie his own shoes. He's essentially brain dead. You have to get him through life.
And that's the thing. Tim and I noticed that too. And I'm not going to go into shill mode. We have a few minutes before we do that. But like Kamen America Volume 1, we wanted to have a strong father figure, he's not pervasive. He's not in every page of the book. He's not even a main character in the book. But he is someone who the main character, Carly, recalls his wisdom and his sacrifices. And it is something that means a lot to her. We didn't want to just keep doing the dumb dad thing that every piece of media does forever. And in a way that ended up being kind of unique is that reading a story that has a father figure in it who's intelligent and who's inspiring and who's important to the character. The character just doesn't look at it and go like, yeah, whatever, dad, you're stupid.
Yeah, a father that you can actually go to and ask for advice and be like, hey, listen, I got myself in a pickle. How do I get myself out of this, Dad? That's what dads do, You think I'm just sitting here while my wife just takes care of the kids and I'm just like drooling all day?
Right.
But it's weird with kids' entertainment. Obviously, I have to watch more kids stuff than I do adult entertainment anymore. And is there's like a checklist, like, okay, every single, and this is just Western stuff, because my kid, my 5-year-old, like, he doesn't really even watch Western entertainment anymore. He just wants to watch the shows from Japan and Korea nowadays. It's because like he's 5 years old, but he can see through it. Like every show is overly moralistic. There's always got to be this big lesson learned. Every bully is always of some sort of ginger. Always got to be a redheaded white kid is always the bully. Anytime you have a minority character, they're the most docile, nerdy, smartest kids in the world. Everything is paint by numbers. Everything just feels so formulaic. It feels like you're watching the same crap over and over with a different intro and a different catchphrase.
And it's true. And I've talked to Fresher Luke. He's an animator in the American animation industry. And he talks about it all the time over on the Bunderdome when I have him on as a guest. But it is something that's done with, they have a checklist. And I think we were talking about it before we started recording. But if you watch these cartoons, it doesn't matter if it's on Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, or the Disney Channel. They all have the quirky, manic pixie girl main character, the Star Butterfly or Mabel Pines, or the new version of Webby on the new DuckTales. They're all the same character. Amphibia has that main character, Anne, who's like that. It's all the same thing. And you'll notice that all these shows, there has to be a character who has gay parents. It doesn't have to be the main character. It can be the main character's best friend, but there's always one character who's got 2 dads or 2 moms. Clarence does that. Big City Greens has that. Of course, like She-Ra and all those other Netflix shows, they all do that. And it's across the board, regardless of what network they're on. And so you can tell that there's some sort of mandate. There's some sort of checklist. God, there's that show, The Loud House. That's another one where a character has 2 dads and he's like the sidekick character. But like The Loud House, the main character's best friend is this like black kid that looks like Urkel. And then I watched Big City Greens, and the main character's best friend is this black kid that looks like Urkel. Even going back to like Billy and Mandy, like Irwin, who was like the main character's best friend, was this little black kid that looked like Urkel. It's just like across the board. Like we have to have a black best friend for the main character, but let's make them as inoffensive and unthreatening as possible. So let's just design him to look like a midget Urkel. And they just keep doing the same thing over and over again. But that's like, I'm bored with that. But so instead of just watching these shows and hating every minute of them, I'm going to go and find a show that I never watched before. I was telling you before we started recording, I've never seen The Prisoner, that old British TV show. And I found it online, so I'm going to start watching that. You know, it's an old show, but I've never seen it, so it's new to me, and I'm actually looking forward to it. And there's almost 100 years of television that I've never seen before, of stuff that's new to me. I'd rather go back and watch that stuff. And
yeah, I'm watching Sherlock right now. I'm reading The Lord of the Rings. You know, I started over again. I got through Tom Bombadil this time, so I feel like I'm going to make it.
Well, it's funny. It's almost like I feel there's this sentiment that goes around. I've seen a lot on social media that if you're watching old stuff instead of new stuff, you're living in the past or you're wallowing in nostalgia. And they say that that's not healthy. Well, I say it's not healthy to sit there and watch or consume media you don't enjoy just because it's something made, you know, in the present. Like, why? Why just sit there and be angry at the stuff you're watching all the time? Why not go and watch stuff that you haven't seen before? Who cares if it's old? You know?
Shouldn't it be entertainment first? That's what I want. I want to be entertained by my entertainment. I don't really want to be taught lessons. I don't mind if there's a little lesson on how to, you know, count for my 5-year-old's entertainment. Right. But I don't really want Hollywood teaching him about morals and stuff. That's what me and his mom are for.
And yeah, that's the other thing, is that there has been a change in children's media away from, like you said, the 3 R's, the reading, writing, arithmetic stuff, and into like a social engineering kind of thing, where if you watch something like Steven Universe, where the kid dresses up in drag and goes to a beauty pageant, and they're trying to pass that off as, you know, the new normal. Don't you dare condemn this kid. You know, let this kid do whatever he wants. If he wants to wear high heels to school, that kind of thing. And that's what's right, and disagreeing with it is what's
Netflix,
wrong.
How many shows can they have about like less than adolescent drag children, like drag queen children? I don't get it.
And that, yeah, and I think that show on Netflix, Cuties, I think that was an eye opener for a lot of people, because they were so just upfront and overt with it. Like, hey, we're saying that it's okay to sexualize little kids, and if you disagree with it, you're wrong. And I think enough people said, like, no, that's not right. I don't agree with that at all. And it backfired on Netflix. They jumped the gun on that. You know, stuff that shows like Steven Universe and OKKO and The Loud House kind of tried to slip in. This show is doing it overtly.
No longer the Trojan horse. They're just being upfront.
Exactly. They came out of the Trojan horse before everybody had fallen asleep, essentially. And I'm hopefully enough people will have woken up to that they'll start, I don't know, not consuming the media that's subverting their children and sending them the wrong morals and messages just because it's what you know, the people in Hollywood and executives want them to think and feel, because it benefits them in some really disgusting and criminal ways.
Yeah, it's weird. So the stuff that's out there right there that's aimed at me and I'm like, God, this is crap, I don't really care. I'll go back and watch other stuff. I can, you know, we have more access to good entertainment from the past than we ever have in our life. But it is the new stuff aimed at children that does obviously bother me as a parent and stuff. Plus, you know, I used to, you know, I can still watch G.I. Joe and Voltron, like from back in the day, and they're still entertaining. I see they're a little bit more convoluted than I originally realized once I understand the
more
story
animation errors you never noticed. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's just weird. So, you know, we have talked about this, but I did want to give you an opportunity. Mark, you are a comic book writer. You and your creative partner, Tim Lim, you have a project that's up right now that's very successful. Congratulations. You've got 19 days to go on your Kickstarter campaign for Kamen America 2. You've almost hit $50,000 already. Wow. That was
a big surprise. It means to us that people who read Kamen America 1, they read it and they liked it enough to come back. But they more than that, they liked it enough to tell their friends about it and to recommend it. And so they're bringing their friends along to check it out. And that means a lot to us, that our backer number has gone up so much. It's not so much the dollar amount, because most of that goes to production and fulfillment. Tim and I don't really keep much of that dollar amount. We're not quite there yet to really profit from it, but it's the backer number. It means that we're growing, that more people are reading and enjoying, our comics. And that's the really important one, is that growth, not dollars, but people. The growth in people really is the big one.
Viewers that came in and they listen to our conversation and they agree with this, is this the kind of entertainment you think they're looking for?
I think so. I mean, we have, like I said, in Kamen America 1, we have a father character, and he's not the Homer Simpson dumb dad archetype. We do have a moral in our story that we start as the foundation, but we don't beat you over the head with it. Entertainment comes first. And obviously, just looking at the aesthetic, people can tell that it is kind of manga and anime inspired. And there are anime and manga that have morals to them. I finished watching Kill la Kill, which I had always thought was just a vacuous fan service show, but it's not. It actually has some pretty hard-hitting narrative moments about growing up. And I won't go into Kill la Kill too much. I think if you only think that it's just people out there, if you only think that Kill la Kill is a vacuous fan service show, it's actually better than that. I would really recommend it. It surprised me. But that's the kind of thing that we want to do, is that our stories do have a message to them, but we don't beat you over the head with it. Entertainment comes first. The quality of the action and of the character development and of the narrative progress comes first. And the moral is just sort of, the icing on the cake.
So I would almost describe you and Tim and what you do with your comics, what you produce is almost like anti-mainstream comic books. If you think the mainstream comics are dumbed down and they're not really worth your time, this is kind of probably what you're looking for. This is more a narrative and story focused. Not all the stupid tropes that you see in every single comic book nowadays, every single piece of modern entertainment. What if this blows up and you guys become the mainstream? Are you going to sell out and start putting all that stuff in it? Are you ready to sell out everything?
Right. So Tim and I have actually talked about that, because we did have one person when we first started on Black Ops, our other ongoing book. We did have one person who expressed interest in it to us. And so we sat down, we had kind of a meeting with him. And he said his ideas for Black Ops, if he were to kind of help us steer the ship, is how he worded it. We just want to help you steer the ship for Black Ops, moving forward, make it more accessible. Like, you need to have a sidekick character, a human kid, like a teenage boy. You need to have him in there, and he's really cool and he's really radical. Maybe he stows away on the Black Ops mission and he helps out, and so that's how he's able to join the team when he's a minor. And he literally described this Poochie character, with sunglasses and a backwards baseball cap on a skateboard. And Tim and I were just kind of like sharing a glance and like, let's never sell out, because this is awful. And yeah, I mean, you see it all the time. There's so much media that's produced after the creator has passed away, and maybe their heirs, their children or their grandchildren, who are now the custodians of their intellectual property. They sell it to a corporation. The corporation mangles it and subverts it and completely destroys it. We'd rather at least not see that happen in our lifetime. So we don't want it to turn into like Ninja Turtles, where I know that Kevin Eastman just rolls with it. He doesn't really care what they do with Ninja Turtles. Peter Laird seems disgusted by what's happened to Ninja Turtles. Like, well, man, you're the one who sold it for $3 million to Viacom. Like, you may hate what they're doing to your babies, to your creations, but you had the choice not to sell, and you did. And Tim and I don't want to ever be in that position where we sell Kamen America or Black Ops to a corporation and they destroy it. And we're just sitting there like powerless, like George Lucas is. Apparently George Lucas doesn't like the sequel trilogy any more than the rest of us, but he can't say or do anything about it. Like, well, you did sell it for $4 billion,
So if somebody signs up and they order Kamen America Volume 2, they get Kamen America Volume 1, they invest in the character, Kamen America is not turning on America.
No, we're not going to do the Captain America Hail Hydra thing. That's never going to happen. We're very sincere with our characters and our plots.
Well, is there anything else you want to say kind of about the Kickstarter? It's not really a campaign. This is a pre-order. The comic book is written. It's illustrated. It's actually kind of been produced. You're just waiting for the final orders, and then you're going to fulfill them as soon as the campaign is over, correct?
Exactly. And that's the way Tim and I always do our campaigns. We call them pre-orders instead of campaigns, because we kind of want people to know that the book is ready. And it's the same thing with Black Ops. The book is done. You're not
funding a dream, people. This is an actual project that's been done already.
Exactly. So I finished the script for Kamen America 3 like a week ago. and Tim's already started drawing it, and I'm working on our next project right now. So as soon as Tim is done with Kamen America 3, I'll be done with our script on our next project, and he'll get started on that, and vice versa. So we're always a book ahead, and that allows us to do what we do here. We do pre-orders instead of campaigns because the book is always ready when we launch our pre-orders.
Nice. Well, I can't wait for this book. I've loved Kamen America. I've loved all your Black Ops stuff, you guys, and you guys are really growing. I'm really excited for you. There will be a link in the video description to the campaign if you haven't backed it already. Obviously, it's very hot. It's white hot right now over at Kickstarter. There will be an Indiegogo campaign after this. If you can't bring yourself to go on Kickstarter, you'll have an opportunity there as well, but it'll be after Kickstarter.
Yep, and that's actually our procedure. Basically, we did that with Black Ops 3. So the Black Ops 3 and Omnibus Indiegogo, it has like, I think, 11 more days left on it. But what we do is we do the first run of pre-orders on Kickstarter. And after the Kickstarter ends, we do a second round of pre-orders on Indiegogo. It has a more limited quantity, and it runs a little bit shorter, but it gives people who missed out in the Kickstarter a chance to get the pre-orders through Indiegogo that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mark, I really appreciate you coming on the channel. Obviously, wishing you guys the best of luck. You don't really need it. You're obviously being really successful, and enjoy this conversation. We'll definitely have you on the channel again.
Yeah, it was great being here. I love being on your show.